Steve the Amateur Historian. Hi everyone, Steve the Amateur Historian here. I'm next to, what is this, like the Regiment Armory? It's a really cool little building, but perpendicular to it, across 11th, Northwest 11th and Davis is this intersection. This brick building back here. Building with a pretty interesting history, even though now, actually for decades, it's been functioning as a car garage, more or less. This was the Pacific Coast Biscuit Company headquarters, which back in the day, you know, like 100 years ago, it was one of the most well-known kind of cracker food type manufacturers in the country. They actually tried to compete with Nabisco during that time and ultimately failed and were bought out by Nabisco, and I think they ultimately shut this down. And I don't remember, it may have sat vacant for a long time before it became a garage. I want to say it became a garage in the 1950s. It may have become a parking garage like not too long after, because it was around 1930 that they were bought out by Nabisco, and essentially that operation was shut down. But in addition to its interesting history, its interesting food history, it's just such an interesting building. You see the structure, and it's kind of arched up right here, and it goes back to here, so it's like, this is like half a city block, because it runs the length, it runs along Davis Street here, between 11th and 12th down there. It seems like maybe this part was built first. It almost feels like this part was annexed on, even though it all looks the same. So I think it was all built at the same time, but just you always get the feeling that there was an annex added later when part of the building looks a certain way and then suddenly it shifts over here. But yeah, this was all part of the Pacific Coast Biscuit Company. There's actually another building over on Gleason, like around 6th or 7th and Gleason, like a little that way. And that was like the Oregon, I think it was called like the Oregon Cracker Company operated out of there, and I believe the Pacific Coast Biscuit Company bought them out. But here's a real interesting aspect of this building. Now, as history happens, things occur. Certain things that are normal, even maybe popular, can somehow get twisted and be used for bad or for evil, and something that was actually deemed a fairly normal thing can be changed completely forever because someone chose to use it in a certain way. Now in this case, what I'm talking about, God, they gotta grease up those streetcar lines. What I'm talking about here is the swastika. Now, a lot of people probably don't know this, but before the onset of the Nazi Party, before the 1930s, the swastika was actually a symbol of, you know, it was used to represent prosperity and success and things like that. So a lot of companies pre-1930s actually used that symbol to try to represent their company. And there's even old advertisements for the Pacific Coast Biscuit Company where a swastika appears on it. And you look at that and you're like, you know, without knowing the historical context, you'll look at that and be like, what the hell? Why do they have a swastika on there? But this was pre-1930. I mean, this place was bought out in 1930. This is before the Nazis came along and, like everything else, took something and ruined it. So the swastika was very very popular to be used by companies pre-1930s before it got the stigma that it has today. And one of the reasons I'm bringing that up, in addition to its prominence and its connection to the Pacific Coast Biscuit Company when it was here, was top of the building, see where this circle is? Directly above that, right here, there was a swastika on this building. And it was put on there as representation for the Pacific Coast Biscuit Company. God, now that I'm thinking about it, I could be wrong about that name, and if I am, hopefully I'll put a title in here to correct me, because I didn't even know I was going to be here. I'm going off pure memory, but I think it was the Pacific Coast Biscuit Company. I might be missing a word. Biscuit might not be the right word, but anyway, that business was here. They used the swastika prominently in their advertising, and they had a white swastika painted right up here, directly between the top of the roof and this circle right here. And what's really crazy, that swastika would not officially be, I'm guessing, removed because it's brick. You can't just paint over it without something showing. That was there until the mid-1990s before someone finally removed it. 50 years after World War II ended, there was still a swastika up here. And there's pictures. I'm going to post them at the end of this video that show the swastika, that there was a swastika located. And obviously, you know, by the 90s, I think even by the 50s, it was really faded. But it was there. And it's just so crazy to think that it took, like, because I want to say it was in like 1996 that they took the swastika off the ceiling, off the you know, brick towards the roof there. I want to say it was like 1996 before that was officially removed. They waited 50 years, and it's just astonishing because you could just, I mean, if you're casually walking this way down the street, you have an unobstructed view of the building. You can catch it easily out of the corner of your eye. And I don't know how many people complained. You'd figure the moment the Nazi Party comes to prominence, you start seeing the swastika used by them, or at least by the time America goes into World War II, you'd think they'd be clamoring to get rid of that. But no, 50 years that there was a swastika right up there on this building. And now, before I bid you adieu, I'm going to bring you some pictures, some historical pictures, predating the mid-1990s, obviously, that show the evidence that there was a swastika located on this building and that it was used to promote the Pacific Coast Biscuit Company and nothing else, at least as far as I know. Crazy Portland history.